I feel like I underestimate it and overestimate it at the same time, because in terms of its early game, it is a lot weaker than what Druid is doing. It has less plays early on, it's probably going to fall behind, but it always seems to find a way to swing things back in the mid game with just all these massive taunts.
Paladin is one of the rare decks in this meta that has a completely unconditional of health board clear, right? If you have the Libram of Justice plus City Tax / Lord Barov plus City Tax, or one of those things plus Blade Master Samuro, doesn't matter how much health you've put on your minions. Even sometimes the Druid can get out of range of Soul Rend with Grey Bow, or maybe some minions buffed with Arbor up, but with Paladin, it's pretty easy to get rid of all of that. That is one of the big reasons for running Libram Paladin altogether, and you can still put together an early curve. But the thing is, the deck has all these disparate halves. They have a lot of spells that can sometimes make the Bannermen feel lackluster, but Alan has hit a pretty good opening hand, I would say. Lacks a 1-drop, which you're always sad about versus aggro decks, but it's above average, right? He gets to play Gurgle into Bannermen and continue buffing his threats.
It's not bad at all, but it's not insane, which Posesi's hand kind of is. Coin Battle Guard into a taunt. I haven't decided which one's better yet. And then follow up with Infestation plus probably another 0 mana taunt. The Arbor up as well. It's obviously a few turns away, but this board doesn't look like it's going anywhere.
Definitely not. And I do agree with Posesi that the Bone Chewer Brawler is better here simply because it has more attack on it. One thing the Paladin cannot do from off-board this early is remove minions, right? It takes a while before you get to play Libram of Justice, before you can play Samuro. And so I like that Posesi is just going as aggressive as possible here. And already he can get himself a 3-minion composting. Not necessarily sure if that's better than just going for, say, a Noyatron plus Adorable Infestation, but that's pretty good.
It's very, very good, isn't it? I really like buffing the Bone Chewer Brawler as well, because the only thing he's really weak to here in terms of clearing his board is City Tax, right? And if he goes for buff the Brawler and then probably go face, although you could theoretically take a value trade with that one, and then don't trade with the the Battle Guard, then you are able to have a nice wide board, and it makes it so that the City Tax is very unlikely to clear off a lot of these minions.
The City Tax would also be off curve here. It would kill off Battle Guard and Marsoul with this play, but Posesi hedges just at the last second by not playing the last Marsoul Cub, because next turn it does feel like he's going Cub plus composting, but there's the tax off the top for Alan. He can even play Broomstick to kill one more thing if he wants. Not sure if worth it, but he's not really rushing that many minions in the near future.
Oh, that is a tough one, isn't it? Okay, it probably does have to be City Tax because the the Battle Guard is there. I keep messing up the names, which would allow you to cheat out either Teacher's Pet or the Grey Bow as well. But I was wondering if you could greed it for a turn, then go with the Broomstick and clear off more stuff. But I like what Alan's doing here. Broomstick, clear everything off, deny composting, and now Posesi's brilliant start has kind of come to a grinding halt.
Yeah, his turn 4 is looking awful. I mean, this turn is already pretty sad with just Marsoul composting. I do think he has to go for it, though. But he needs to top deck something amazing next turn. I guess Park Panther to deal with Alan's next threat. But yeah, I completely agree with Alan's last turn of going for the Broomstick, because if he did not, he would have face tanked 7 from the Bone Chewer Brawler at that point, and also left one more minion for a potential composting. So I think it's just pretty disciplined. You can get tempted to go for Bannerman first and have your Broomstick go up to 2 attack, but it's not actually changing that many breakpoints because you're still going to kill the Bone Chewer Brawler as a priority in that spot.
Alan not letting himself get greedy here. Bannerman was very tempting because at face value it looks like it trades against the board for Posesi. But I like that he's just playing the biggest minion he can each turn and making sure he has the maximum follow-up potential to clear off minions before Arbor Up comes down.
Okay, Posesi at least gets a cheap minion to go with the composting. That's what he is going for by not playing it last turn, you'd have to imagine. And now Alan has the potential to go for this SI7 Skulker, which is a one-of tech inclusion. Like, Libram Paladin as an archetype is already pretty spicy, but the fact that Alan's also running a bunch of these one-ofs, there's a Crossroads Watch Post in here as well, I find very entertaining.
Got to be the Arbor up. It's not the most impressive of buffs because, I don't know, it's okay to buff the watch post, but obviously it can't attack in its own right. But it at least gets him back ahead on board, which means Alan has got a couple of awkward turns here before he can start locking things down with those Librams of Hope, especially because he hasn't reduced them at all yet.
Alan starting with the Knight of Anointment here kind of makes me think he potentially leaves the watch post up this turn. Because if not, I think he would have gone like Hand of a Doll into his 2-2 to then kill the 4-4 before drawing any more cards. But leaving up the watch post makes sense because it also has a composting on it, right? Don't give Posesi the draw because it's not actually affecting the board, and Alan doesn't feel bothered about his mana at the moment. The Libram of Wisdom still playable here.
It's true. Alan's just a leave-up watch post gamer. We saw it with him when he was playing Warlock last week, right? And then this week again on the Paladin. I'm sure he'll get rid of it at some point, but for the moment, it just means he's staying nice and ahead on board. 9 mana McGurgle Prime does hurt, though. 4 mana Devout Pupil, though, does not hurt. That is the dream.
Yeah, with that to fill out the rest of his mana, it's perfect, right? Even if you don't get to McGurgle Prime on curve, you can just play Liadrin, and at the very least, the Librams of Wisdom will all be playable by that point. Posesi, though, has picked up a big board potential here.
He has, and I do think it's time to go in. Even though we saw Alan be incredibly hesitant to use his Oracle of Illuna earlier on in the day, at this point, absolutely. You can set up some taunts, even get Divine Shield on them, which means it's fairly likely that the Oracle just survives the turn, and then you can start looking for that second Battle Guard to go with the Teacher's Pet.
I hate that it might come down to this, Derek, but I think if this McGurgle Prime can generate rushes, then Alan wins. If it doesn't,
wow.
Posesi is looking in a good spot. Because as it happens here, like Alan is going to play Liadrin, right?
Yeah.
And he only gets to kill 1 minion from this point, whereas Posesi can dictate the trades, push a lot of face damage, and has the potential to top deck Arbor up, and he's going to retain a lot of minions. So if Alan's best play is to play a big board, then Posesi might have 2-turn lethal if there's no rushes from the McGurgle Prime.
Liadrin, what are you doing, you absolute mule? You've broken the Spectator as well. Oh,
Don't tell me there's a new bug. Oh, it's a reconnect. Okay.
Get that sorted as soon as possible. Hopefully that's just a spectator issue as well, not a disconnect from the players. But either way, I'm sure that will get sorted out as soon as possible. And like you said, it was just a razor-fine margin between the players. A couple of these top decks that work well with a wide board, and Posesi could be in the driving seat. If he gets himself, as I said, Battle Guard, he can copy the Teacher's Pet. Arbor up, as you said, he buffs the board. Even composting, in order to draw through more of his deck, is a reasonable top deck as well.
Okay, Liadrin's still in hand, so Alan is not convinced about playing it yet. Okay, just wants to get 1 more Libram of Wisdom in the pool, but again, this is not immediately impacting the board. It's just the 1 trade that's going to happen here. So Posesi has the power to push back with an Arbor up! The perfect top deck! Posesi, eyes wide open. Does he trade first to get... Yes, he does. Because of the 6 breakpoint, it just makes sense to trash a 2-2, and then you Arbor up, you can trade the other Gordon in. And Derek, it's happening! What's in the Prime?
Man, I never thought I'd come down to say it, but Fishy Flyer in this meta is the absolute nuts. It's come full circle, Gia.
There's the other thing as well. Much more realistically, this is what Alan's looking for.
Oh!
Many tags! No spell damage.
He can go for Knight of Anointment that will draw him a 5 mana Libram of Justice, which is 1 mana too expensive because he's only played 1 discounter, right? And it will be made more expensive by the watch post. So that's just narrowly not an out for Alan here.
If you go Hand of a Doll and get Samuro, that costs 5 mana, and you can play 2 Librams on it, so it can deal 3 damage AoE. That would allow him to survive on board, I believe.
That's true, yeah.
I think that's better odds than getting enough Fishy Flyers here. I'm going Hand of a Doll.
How many do you need? You would need 2, right? You need to kill off 2 minions here to survive. That's pretty unlikely. I mean, City Tax again does have life steal, so you could try and use that just to survive, but I don't know if that's getting there. Aldor Truthseeker plus a whole bunch of 0 mana Librams. That is a really, really big taunt.
That's true. And he gets to play Hand of Adal on it as well. I think this is just better from Alan going for the tradable. I looked at Hand of Adal and said this is the cheapest draw effect, but of course City Tax is tradable. He did it for 1 mana instead, gave himself the out for Samuro, and also apparently Aldor Truthseeker to survive narrowly.
Oh, Varian as well. This is getting so close. But Battle Guard is an absurd top deck. This can be double Battle Guard, double Teacher's Pet, repopulate the board. Oh my god.
Whoever's behind the scenes writing the script for playoffs, you're doing great, buddy. An amazing first series, and it's doing amazing once again here.
Alan just showing absolutely no emotion though here. He is cool as anything.
But it needs to be Samuro again, and even then there's death rattles on these Teacher's Pets.
I mean, he's got Varian and then buff that up a whole bunch, right? Like, it's a taunt.
True. Can get up to 11 health? Is that enough? I don't think it is. Because you kill 2 layers of Teacher's Pets, right? Let's say they pop 2 attack minions.
Yeah.
It might be enough.
That's enough. Yeah, you're surviving.
Yeah. Okay, 2 is generous though. If they pop a single poisonous beast, you're dead. If they pop Mukla, you might not be alive either. But that's really the only option.
I mean, yeah. The question is if you just don't attack, because there are a couple of poisonous beasts with the Basilisk, the Venomous Scorpid. He's going for it.
Ooh.
Oh! Oh my god! He gets 2!
Double? Are you joking?
Oh my god, for the Devout Pupil as well!
It's just you. Hero power is lethal here because it's 2 poisons.
That is unbelievable.
Posesi is just...
He's not human. Posesi cannot be human. He is too good. How does this happen? Oh.
Emoting the emoter. Derek Allen met his match.
He actually BMs after rolling double Scorpid. Oh, I love APAC.
Probably only in response to Alan for saying that was a mistake, because I think you caught it right at the very end there that what if Alan just doesn't trade to give no possibility of poison?
Yep.
There's no poison rush combination. There's poison divine shield and then the Scorpid. And being able to attack with those immediately after only happens if Alan himself kills the first layer of Teacher's Pet. So we can wind back and look at it. Obviously, there's upsides to killing the Teacher's Pet. If they spawn lower attack minions, then you're getting more value out of your Divine Shield. But I wonder, because clearly all Alan had to do that turn was survive, right? Because he had the Samuro in hand for the big sweep the next turn.
Yeah, I do want to say that I think Alan played that very, very well in that late game. That was tough to spot the lines that can survive. After Posesi got, it's got to be said, astronomically lucky. Hitting Arbor up into Battle Guard, into double poisonous. Like, it was every best outcome that could possibly happen. I think Alan was overwhelmingly likely to win the series at that point. But either way, you know, you play to those outs, Posesi hit them, and he's 1-0 up now. Getting the win with the Druid is huge.
That's insane. And it also means that Paladin continues its losing streak here in APAC. It's been a while since we haven't seen it banned away, but it makes sense that Posesi would leave it up here because both players' lineups look like they are meant to priority ban Rogue. The fact that Posesi has double Altar of Fire in the Warlock makes me think that's a decent enough matchup into Demon Hunter. He has the Aggro Druid himself to be good against Demon Hunter. And then the Rogue, I guess, is not specifically tech to beat Demon Hunter, but I don't think it's the worst matchup in the world. Both players leaving up DH and banning Rogue makes sense to me.
It does make sense, yeah. I think the Rogue is just a little bit too powerful against all these board-based decks. And for Alan, who obviously doesn't have a Demon Hunter, you can't get rid of that for Posesi, who may have gone for that route either way. But he's going with his Demon Hunter now, the version that most of the Japanese players have been going over to, a version that Alan himself was favoring last week with this 1 Mortal Coil, 1 Shadow Blast, and double Altar of Fire, a tech that, as I've said, I just really like the look of. I think it's very powerful against the aggro decks, very powerful, obviously, against the combo decks. If you can hit Garrote, Spell Damage, Field Contact, Octobot, Shadow Step, any of those against Rogue make their lives a lot harder. And then, of course, as we've seen against Demon Hunter, bye-bye Il'gynoth, and the game just ends on the spot. Probably not going to be the case against Paladin, as it is much more of a defensive matchup rather than deleting key cards. But even then, just getting through to the Baron Scavenger is so important for this Warlock.
Yeah, I definitely think that I would agree there. The Altar of Fire can also delete, I mean, not instantly game-ending cards, but pretty relevant things from Paladin, because they have a lot of these legendary minions that they want to see throughout the game, like Lady Liagen, the Varian, even McGurgle Prime / the first part of McGurgle, and getting rid of an additional Libram of Wisdom can sometimes delete a lot of Paladin's long-term value. But this is considered on paper a Paladin-favored matchup because the early curve tends to be very resilient against the removal that Warlock has, which is Soul Rend. Divine Shields, Warlock's worst enemy. However, Alan has hit a pretty slow opening hand. Thank goodness he has McGurgle, because the opener of Liagen and Libram of Hope looked abysmal.
Yeah, it's clunky, isn't it? But it's the kind of hand that can start moving. It can start rocking and rolling pretty quick. With the Devout Pupil as well, if he can find himself a Libram Cheapener, maybe a Libram of Hope. Crossroads Watchpost is not terrible either, theoretically, if he can get it down before the Giants and the other big threats come online.
Yeah, the Watchpost is another thing I forgot to highlight, but that's very good against Warlock if they don't have board immediately, because the 6 health on it means that they can't just unstable Shadow Blast it, because it will get the buff before the spell actually resolved, so it actually goes up to 7. And the Goldshire Knoll is 1 attack short of being able to one-shot the Watchpost, so pretty annoying for Posesi here.
It really is. He could go for Knoll plus Touch of the Nathrazim, right? He couldn't go for the Mortal Coil, as you said, because it grows before the spell resolves, which is annoying because it does mean that the McGurgle Prime is outside of the Touch the Nathrazim range. You have to use it on the other minion, but with the Drain Soul, it is still just quite clean, isn't it, for Posesi?
Yeah, that works out pretty nicely indeed. And that Watchpost is a one-of only, so that's the last he'll have to worry about spending expensive cards to clear a minion. Whereas Alan has a decent follow-up here, Devout Pupil curving out here. It's really only turn 6 that needs to be spoken for, and then he has power plays from every point onward. I guess Liagen on 7, not really that juiced, but you'll take it if there's nothing better.
Weird turn for Posesi, where he obviously wants to hero power to complete the quest. However, if he wants to play Tour Guide, he has to go Raise Dead first, which would then over-complete the quest by an extra damage dealt to himself. He could still go tap Raise Dead Giant. He could just go tap Giant. He doesn't have to play Raise Dead on this turn at all. But in the end, I think he's trying to manipulate a way where he can get down double Giant on this turn, which I think is actually just doable, right? With Raise Dead, Tour Guide, tap, double Giant. That's sick.
That does look very powerful. The longer you wait, the more likely the Paladin is to have hit Libram of Justice by that point. And Alan actually has played 0 Libram discounts, so even if he had the Justice here, he'd have to have, like, there's no mana to also play the City Tax.
I think you can chill on the second Raise Dead. I know that this allows you to play an extra Mortal Coil to take out the Divine Shield. But even so, I'd really like to Raise Dead some Giants. He is just going in here to immediately clear off the minion and get the Giants down. Whew.
I actually like this better, honestly.
Okay.
It just, in the world where there is Libram of Justice, it means that there's not an additional minion trading in, and the Divine Shield would have made it pretty clean for Alan, actually. And even though Posesi might not have another round of Giants, by going turbo raise deads and buying himself a whole other turn, he potentially just gets to get rolling on his own quest completion game plan, because I think it's pretty realistic for Paladin to actually exhaust the Warlock of all threats, so the Warlock can sometimes have to shift to a game plan where they try and win off of Tamsin Blightborn. Incidentally, the Battlegrounds Battlemaster would have ended the game on the spot here, but Posesi doesn't have it.
True. Which is good news for Alan, of course. Posesi had a couple of routes here. Forgoes the tap, which is interesting because we're definitely looking at getting these Baron Scavengers online as quick as possible. But at this point, he's saying, you know what, I'm winning the game anyway. I just have to lock out any board clears, which this Neophyte probably does a good job of. Alan draws. He, I'm imagining, doesn't hit what he needs. And that's going to be GG.
Yep. No Barov, no Libram of Justice. Posesi kind of had a read on them not being in hand the last turn, and by playing the Neophyte, he shuts off the possibility of a top deck Libram of Justice to go with a potential City Tax already in hand. That's the game. In the blink of an eye.
He can go Skulker Broomstick, which will allow him, because of the buffs, to clear off Giant and Neophyte, so technically, he's alive at 1 health right now.
Well, then he has to go for it.
Doesn't even want that. I guess maybe Posesi's quest was just about to be completed. I honestly wasn't sure where the progression was. But Alan just throws it down anyway. And Gia, the Paladin again, can't get a win. It's the only reason that Alan won in the previous series, because Surrender just banned away his Paladin. It's now like 0-12 on broadcast here in Asia Pacific over the last couple of weeks. It's just beyond a joke.
Beyond a joke. I mean...
It is!
It kind of is. But I really don't want to say that because we're seeing top-notch players, Alan, Bunny Hopper bringing it, who have done their own fair share of testing, who have looked at ladder stats, which is a bigger sample size than GM. You can make the argument that perhaps it's not the highest quality of stats to get because their average GM player is going to be a bit better, but I don't think it could be that big a difference that it could skew the numbers as far as 0 and 12. Who knows? But if there is one matchup that I actually do feel confident in Paladin in, maybe it is the Demon Hunter. Posesi is going to change onto that as it happens, though, instead of playing it into Alan's. Oh, sorry. My mistake. I got everything mixed up. Posesi is on the Demon Hunter and Alan is going to play Paladin. And I do believe this matchup is Paladin favored because you are likely to get high statted minions and have them stick throughout the mid game. And that is just the shape of minion that Demon Hunter doesn't like to deal with.
You're not wrong. And for Alan, I was going to say that the Goody 2 shields also looks quite nice. I'm a little surprised to see that thrown away because that's, while it's overall not a necessarily perfectly statted minion in dense board battles where a 4-2 Divine Shield is quite susceptible, against Demon Hunter, that's kind of tough to clear in the early turns.
Oh, but Alan's hand again is so expensive.
Yeah.
Hitting the Varian and Libram of Hope or the Adrian and Libram of Hope in the opener every time. This is not what you want, right? Hitting the Goody 2 shields, like you said, would be a little bit better in this instance, but I don't fault Alan looking for buff cards, Hand of Adal, Libram of Wisdom. Stacking those up is where Demon Hunter tends to struggle. But Posesi doesn't have very much card draw. Had the opportunity to go double jump and look for Spectral Sight, but because there's a bunch of whiffs there, it looks like he might save that to go with a Glide on turn 5, maybe?
Yeah, he's gearing up for a big removal turn probably instead, expecting some more kind of development here. But in the end, just seeing another hero power. This could be Fellscream Blast hero power. I think I'd probably rather throw down the Moarg in that instance, right? Just to get a 2-4 on board.
Hold on. Let's look at Posesi's list. He does have one Philosophy, so yeah, I think it's fine to use a Moarg here.
I grow impatient.
Moarg, Fellscream, Husk Piercer.
By itself, the Moarg does trade into, you know, a fair few of Paladin's early minions.
Like, if they just go Cariel, then that's a bit scary, but it's just a legendary. If they were to go Coin Aldor Truthseeker, that's pretty good, because then you have I-Beam ready to go, and you can probably still complete the quest, right? With Tusk Piercer, Swing, Double Jump. Although mana might get a little bit tight.
Yeah, I think there's a decent chance the double jump just pulls Glide by itself as well, so that's an option. But Posesi's gonna hold off on the Fell Scream altogether here, not feeling overly pressured. That's fair. Paladin's burst is limited.
Tempo Samuro is the best you have. I hate it.
Me too, but it's the only realistic play, I think, unless you want to trade City Tax to look for exactly goody 2 shield or something.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very good, does it? And ooh, Acrobatics, probably saving that for next level when it's discounted. I'm kind of interested in Spectral Sight while it's outcast.
Yeah, he's just going for Acrobatics so that he can get discounts on Spectral Sight, but I don't know if that's necessarily worth it if you're losing the Outcast ability.
Yeah, and he could have got discount on Acrobatics instead, which felt kind of better to me. A little weird.
Like, I could hear this argument if you feel like you're going to outcast from the left in the near future, but maybe it's not the near future, but it does feel like Posesi is gearing up to dump all these cards on the left, right? He's just holding out for Alan to play a significant threat for once, so he can then use the Fell Scream for good value. But as it happens, Alan just hasn't drawn any significant threats.
That's true, and now finally, though, Alan is getting those significant threats, as you put it. Coin into Libram of Hope next turn, Devout Pupil, Varian as well. He's getting the threats online. And Posesi, despite this being a very mediocre set of minions, has been pushed down to 15 health.
Yeah, it starts to get a bit scary. I mean, he could still not clear anything here and be 100% alive because Alan doesn't have that much buff in the deck, right? The best he could do is like double Hand of Adal and like Libram of Wisdom or something.
Yeah.
So by that metric, does Posesi just go for next layer quest again? Wing into a minion, trade back the Peddler. It looks like he's gonna go for the full clear with the I-beam at the end of it.
Okay, and then following up with the killing off the Samuro. This does mean that his Spectral Sights are outcast again, which is pretty juicy. It's kind of to the point where we could actually see double quest completion depending what Acrobatics offers as well. McGurgle Prime as well, though, means this is getting spicy for Alan because I think it's probably still just coin Libram of Hope, even though there's a Moarg on board, and then just play your biggest threat each turn.
I do love a good study session.
I mean, there is an opportunity to do this, right? And then coin 8 into 8 and skip the Libram of Hope. Because with Posesi at 30, I don't feel like an 8-mana 8/8 is actually doing enough. I think you need a board of Murlocs to actually get Posesi here. It's still not the easiest task for Posesi to kill the Devout Pupil here just because he used an I-beam already. But now, things work out better.
Okay, so with both of those discounted, you can go trade Arcanist I-beam just to play both of them and draw 2 more cards, and then Illidari Study's Spectral Sight double jump does give you Kurtrus in hand.
Yeah, you don't even need to studies.
Oh no, you don't, yeah. No, he goes up to 9, right? And then he's still fine.
Oh.
Looking good.
Well, the Kurtrus would be the 10th card in hand, right?
Oh, so overdraw after quest. Sorry,
yeah,
I misunderstood.
No worries. So a little bit scary, but we've seen Glory take this risk just last week. Perhaps it was less risky for Glory at that point, though, because Posesi only has 7 cards in deck. That's a 1 in 7 to lose Iggy himself.
It is, yeah. If that goes down, I do think Posesi will struggle to win this one, even with a big board clear sticking Demon Slayer Kurtrus. Still, the response from Alan will be too strong. So we're just looking for not Il'gynoth, and you're fine for Posesi. And we're also looking for big Murlocs here. And it is Il'gynoth! What?
Thank you.
What?
Okay. If the odds of getting double poison from Teacher's Pet were roughly 1 in 7, the good 1 in 7, and here he hit the bad 1 in 7, then there's justice in the world, right?
Exactly. All's fair, and Alan gets the reverse BM. Oh, that was juicy. Right. Win conditions. We need to salvage this train wreck of a game now, Gia, because obviously a lot of Murlocs in play, no answer coming on this turn. Is there anything that you can get, maybe off the studies, to cheese out a win condition?
I'm going to go ahead and say nope. Not against this hand from Alan. I mean, he just has 8-8 rush it, Cariel, sure, anything he wants. There's just too much value. Varian in hand, even if this board gets cleared by the last remaining Immolation Aura. He has so many more minions he can play in the near future, and the best thing studies can get you in terms of like value, I'm pretty sure is just the 5-4 with 2 1/1s. That's the biggest minion. Maybe Kurtrus to clear something, but that's not winning a game.
Oh man, and now we have to start asking, was there any way that Posesi could not have burned a card? Like, if he'd played the Illidari studies for 0 mana first, he could have hit, like, Sigil Runner and then not outcast it. Philosophy as the other 1 cost would still add another card to the hand. So, like, there are theoretically ways he could have done it, but I don't even know if that's necessarily better. I think just taking the 1 in 7 was his best chance.
I don't know. I mean, he certainly didn't need to get Kurtrus in hand that turn. I think I still would have done it in his place.
Yeah.
It's just too juicy. Double quest completion in 1 turn. But we called it out. He was going to overdraw a card at that point. 7 in deck is always scary. Okay,
let's say he clears the board here and then hits Vile Fiend Trainer. Not good enough. Glide doesn't really do anything.
You can stop fatiguing for
I'm out. I've run out of answers.
Also, how does he clear this board? There's an 8-8 Divine Shield.
Yeah, so how's this working? Obviously, Guild Trader Immolation Aura does 6 and would do 3 damage to the big Libram of Hope.
I think Posesi's just kind of playing cards to clear it.
Yeah.
What a game, Derek. What a series. You know what? I don't think you should ever go 2-0 versus Alan. He just reaches his final. When he's down 0-2, he gets invincibility from that point.
Yeah, exactly. You find out he's been playing with his left hand the entire time, switches hands to the other mouse, the mouse to the other hand, and is just popping off then.
Pleasure doing business.
He'll like faint for 10 seconds and have a flashback of when his friend and grandfather secrets of how to play Hearthstone.
Yeah, when Alan
wakes up, his grandfather's spirit is in his eyes.
Yeah, AlanC86 taught him the ways of Hearthstone back in the day. But there it is. Posesi throws it down. Try as he might, there is nothing doing. Alan takes the win. Is this what it takes for Paladin to win a game of Hearthstone? They just have to overdraw Il'gynoth as the 1 overdrawn card in the deck. We've finally seen it now, Gia. It's like 1 and 12 on broadcast in APAC. And I'm glad that Alan was the first player to do so, because it means we add some spice to this series now. Again, as you were saying, 2-0 down for Alan, and the sweep, the reverse sweep, is still potentially alive.
It certainly is. The 1 in 12, less likely to win with Paladin than it is to overdraw Il'gynoth as it happened. But that is the Paladin out of the way for Alan, which is the deck we have eternally been the most worried about. Now Alan can move on to either his Aggro Druid, which I think is also quite favorable versus Demon Hunter, and then he has his Face Hunter, which is, you know, based on our knowledge of the previous meta before Stormwind, I think a lot of people's gut reaction would be to say Demon Hunter should win this instantly. But I've fallen prey to that. I haven't actually tested the current meta matchup that much until last night, where we found that Hunter does have some teeth in the matchup. I wouldn't call it favored, but it's not nearly as bad as I initially thought. Alan is going to go for the Aggro Druid first though, which I think is quite favorable for the reasons that you are able to build board after board, even if you build a board that's not threatening lethal by itself. It could threaten lethal with Arbor Up if you had it in hand, and so the Demon Hunter always has to be worried, and they might use one removal piece too many.
That's right. It kind of functions down the same lines, I see it, as how Rush Warrior worked against OTK Demon Hunter in the previous meta, pre-expansion, because the kind of the hidden point of Rush Warrior was every minion you played had to be removed the turn you played it, or you kind of won the game. Like Parade Leader, Playmaker, the Troublemaker at the end, Rakara, like all these must-remove minions. And this Druid's kind of the same. If you play Oracle of Elune, Battle Guard, Peasant even in the early game can be really annoying if it's not cleared off. And the Demon Hunter doesn't want to remove minions as soon as they come down. It wants to let you play a bunch of minions and then remove all of them. But Druid preys on that very heavily by playing minions with powerful repeat effects like the Oracle, the Peasant, and the Watchpost as well.
And that Oracle, I think, is a snap keep for Alan, especially on the coin. The rest of the hand, though, I wonder. Like, Neophyte obviously has some disruption versus Demon Hunter, but I don't like playing it on turn 2 necessarily. He gets rid of the Elune, though, which means that I think Alan's kind of had this specific thinking with Elune this entire time where he wants to save that as the refill, not as the first threat. He might play it after he's seen a big Immolation or a turn, but if he's not able to play it in the early game because he has, he would rather save it for when you have enough mana to play it with Razormane Battle Guard, I think Alan would prefer that option.
And while we've gone through a few games where both players have relatively mediocre hands, we're now shifting over to a game where both players have extremely juicy hands. Look at what we're working with here. Posesi had Sigil plus Tusk Piercer for the perfect start, but gets I-Beam off the top, meaning he has an even better turn 2, and can just follow up with strong play after strong play.
Yeah, and the option to go hero power there rather than Tusk Piercer, I think it's pretty smart, right? Because the weapon as a weapon is actually pretty relevant in this matchup. A lot of the time you're just playing it to bank mana as a card draw later on. But, oh my goodness, that's so perfect. He can clear again here and also get the Tusk Piercer online. But I don't necessarily know if it's worth already Immolation Aura because he has Moarg Immolation.
Oh, it's really close, isn't it? Because, again, as we were saying, Druid can prey upon this if a board sticks. Like, composting here, if it comes down, is really, really scary. And to be fair, if you do go for the Immolation Aura, it's a decent couple of turns still for Posesi. He can complete the quest very likely next turn, right? He would just need one extra effect and then play the Sigil as well. But he is, in the end, just holding off for one extra turn. I think it's reasonable.
It is. Posesi has seen this one kept card, which honestly I would not have a read on composting here if I were Posesi. I think that was Oracle of the Lune or something, and I'd be very scared to have used my Immolation if that's the follow-up. But as it happens, it's composting. Alan has the refill here even after Posesi goes for the big clear.
Oh, it's going to be a close one, isn't it? We can see 1-2 cards drawn. It's not going to be possible for Posesi to just go Immolation Aura and then Moarg afterwards to stick a body, because he, I think, is going to be more heavily valuing quest completion.
Like he is just going to play the Moarg for tempo, which is a clever spot. If he did go for... Oh, wait. Hits Philosophy now. That's free, so yeah, I like the idea of playing a 3/5 Moarg.
Yeah, it's premium here. Still has another one to go for the Immolation Aura, another one that would actually survive a lot of the time, but he doesn't throw it down. It looked like he was reaching it at the start of the turn, but he's just passing, holding on to these big clears instead of trying to populate the board.
Fair enough. I guess Park Panther would have been a pretty big punish for just Tempo Moarg, but I was looking at it to be there with the mana spent before Arbor Up can come down. Alan is, however, just going to play Peasant and the 2/3, and he'll be getting 4 draws after this clear.
Ooh.
Oh, 3, sorry. The squirrel wasn't there before.
Yes, yeah, correct. And so now Immolation Aura, I guess chilling for a turn before he goes for another quest completion. He could, of course, gone Spectral Sight, but that would have meant he couldn't play the Moarg, so it wouldn't have been quest completion anyway. So fair enough, going for this line and just setting up for quest completion a turn later instead.
And back to Alan, he has power play after power play, but I mean, if it doesn't include Battle Guard, the power play for Druid is admittedly just minion on curve.
Yep. Exactly. He can hold on to the Oracle for a while now and hold out for that second Battle Guard, I think is smart.
Yeah, I think so too. I do like Teacher's Pet over Greybow as well because they're both dead to I-Beam with a Moorg on board, but the Teacher's Pet has a Death Rattle.
I see.
Fell Scream is big for later.
That's very big with a Guild Trader and a Moarg as well. That's guaranteed killing 3 minions.
Posesi's not at 9, he's just at 30 in the future.
True.
The fact that this is 1 minion for Alan specifically gives Posesi so much leeway. He doesn't even have to kill the Teacher's Pet because Arbor Up does not kill him here.
Acrobatics.
It's short of being able to get Kurchus this turn, right?
Yeah, with very specific draws, he can get Kurchus. Like, it would have to be double one mana cards, and one of them is double jump to be able to do it on this turn. So I can see holding on to it, but at the same time, if you want to just go Acrobatics to find stronger plays for next turn, it's really close because there's a good chance that you glide anyway next turn.
Yeah.
I'm unconvinced.
Oh, wow. He's just playing another more. Okay.
Wow.
All right. It means he has that mana spent for a big Fell Scream the next turn, and it's quite awkward for Alan to deal with both of these, even if he had Park Panther because of the 5 health breakpoint.
Very true. And therefore, just Arbor Up. I know it's really mana inefficient on this turn, but essentially everything is in terms of how you want to, unless you want to fit in a hero power in both 2-drops. And so just being able to kill off one of the Moargs looks okay. You want to go for the perfect 6 mana.
I was looking at that, but then decided that it's quite weak if there is any board clear after, because you've given up your immediate value with the Oracle of the Loon. So I do agree with just Arbor Up here. And now Posesi gets to go for healing for 18 here. Not up back to 30, my bad.
It's very clean, isn't it? Can also complete quest with Acrobatics, Spectral Sight.
Ooh. Now he can just Imbo and like draw off of the Acro instead.
True, but I think he'd actually rather keep the board in play if possible, as the spirit of Monsanto and Language Hacker lives on with Muckler here off of the Teacher's Pet.
Well, the Immo would have left his Morg alive at 3-1, and potentially you were going to trade it into whatever pops out of the pet anyway, but there is a world where something disastrous pops out like this Mukla, which means that you really wish you would have taken the healing while it was available, so I don't dislike the Fell Scream Blast here. Studies, spend the mana? Don't really know what he would play here.
Yuck. Stelina? Yeah, maybe that does something.
Gonna save Sigil for after Kurchus, it looks like. I'm not sure if I agree with that. Okay, good, he plays it. I do think Posesi still needs one more round of board clears here. It's very realistic that Alan does something that disincentivizes just Kurchus again this turn. Oh, that composting is spicy as well.
It really is, huh? You can get 4 minions here with Oracle, one of your 2-drops, and the composting at the end, which I do like the look of, and kill off the Moarg, because Alan here quite clearly is back on the representer board that can kill your opponent with Arbor Up game plan.
It is just one Arbor Up left though now, so Posesi can be a little bit more lax, I suppose, with playing around it, but I still really just like the idea of getting card draw.
I agree. I think it's past the point where he can wait for exactly second Battle Guard to copy an extra Teacher's Pet or Greybow with his Oracle of a Loon. It's time to just go in and pray that it survives.
Pretty decent positioning as well though, because the taunts are next to each other and the Loon is far away, so there's Fell Scream Blast. The 1-3 can't necessarily hit the Loon through a taunt.
So you have Kurtrus You can obviously trade, but you know, you have an I-beam at the end of the turn, if nothing else. Problem is that you can't go I-beam and glide because there's currently a Illidari Studies aura making all of that cheaper.
Honestly, I kind of wanted to immo I-beam, which only leaves after the trade Bone Chewer Brawler on the board. But if you do that, it's before purchase, so it looks like Posesi is just gonna hold on to the immo for one bigger board clear. Fair enough. That's a very valuable card. Moarg now means that he can kill the Elune if he wants to.
Oh, it's tight though, right? Because that's his last Moarg. He's actually starting to run out of win condition. He still has it, and obviously against Druid, you don't necessarily need to hit it because just playing all your tradables is often enough in the late game. But I can understand why he's holding on to it here.
The Elune by herself is not actually that threatening here unless there's a Razor main Battle Guard, right? Because copying all of these small minions doesn't actually make a difference into a big immolation clear. The difference is when she can copy Grey Bow or Teacher's Pet, which only happens if there's a Razor main Battle Guard!
Okay, now we're talking.
Yeah. So which one is better, Grey Bow or Teacher's Pet? I think Grey Bow, right?
Probably, yes. You could just play the other one as well if you wanted to. You obviously wouldn't be able to copy it, right? But it's still playable at 5 mana.
Oh, okay. He copies Teacher's Pet because Grey Bow at 6 health is still the same breakpoint for spell damage +2 and immolation aura. Yeah, upon revisiting it, this is better to copy. It's stickier into the big board clear, which is absolutely what Posesi has been saving. Guild Trader, Immolation Aura. But now, the Grey Bow Death Rattle will stick to one of the minions that popped out of the Teacher's Pet because Alan deliberately played the Teacher's Pets first.
And I mean, now we're looking at theoretically lethal on this turn for Posesi with like 0 mana Moarg, Guild Trader as well. He'd need to get double spell damage effect to get there. But with Il'gynoth off the top, this is still not lethal quite yet because of mana restrictions.
I am counting 18, but there's an Arcanist in the deck, right? And if you play these 2 cards, you draw 2 more cards from the Acrobatics.
Oh my god, that's
if you
so
get
risky.
the Arcanist, that's the 30. It's risky though, so I don't think he does it. I think he just goes for Guild Trader Fellscream, and not Fellscream, Immolation Aura. That does leave 2 beasts and the Grey Bow Death Rattle on one of those beasts, but he's at 26. That's fine.
Oh, he just trades.
I mean, he can still play the other Guild Trader and Immo. It's fine, right? Posesi, you're doing it, right? Okay, yeah.
Oh, okay.
An additional minion. It's just better.
Procs, if this one dies as well to the 3 damage, nothing's even spawned off Grey Bow. Very clever ordering. I hadn't seen that for Posesi, but it means that nothing is left whatsoever.
Neophytes. Does that change anything? I don't feel like it. Posesi has so much mana. Full 10.
It's the only play he's got, though. He just needs to pray that it's enough as he goes all in on the board, setting up for Arbor up next turn. But now, as you said, Posesi, it looks like he may be able to get there, as I think Alan has broken the spectator at the worst possible time when Posesi is potentially going through to the semi-finals.
Oh,
I hate you, Newell.
I do think Posesi should have this, though, even if it means gliding back his own hand. Like, if you start Il'gynoth Moarg, glide, you still have tons of mana to draw.
Yeah.
The Guild Trader that he needs and Fellscream. Although it is one Guild Trader left, right?
Yes, 1 Guild Trader, 1 Arcanist as well, right?
So he needs both of them for 30 damage. If he only hits 1, it's only 18.
Oh,
but if you go Arcanist first, you can't glide after.
Right, exactly. Playing
so
Star Student Stelina?
Oh, sorry. That's not a Peddler. Sorry, that's a Stelina. I thought it was a yeah. He is gliding.
Really? What's happening?
Why? I'm confused.
Posesi? Are we okay? We need to do something right now!
He's just set to Arbor up.
What?
Dude, Dark, what happened?
What just happened?
I'm speechless! Posesi, hands in his hair. Something went wrong there. Obviously, it was still a difficult turn, right? Because we just outlined
Yes.
the problem. If he wanted to get lethal guaranteed, it was just not possible because he had to play the Arcanist before gliding, and he needed to glide to get the other piece that would have been lethal. But if you're not able to do it, perhaps then you switch to a board-based game plan where you fell scream, not the entire board, but you get to stick Ilgan off a Moarg or something like that. That was just play paralysis at the end there, I'm pretty sure.
I am speechless. How does Posesi go from making one of the coolest intricate technical turns I've seen in a long while, where he perfectly maneuvers the hero power on the teacher's pet so that nothing is spawned off the Greybow? Such a clever use of his mana on that turn and setting up for an almost guaranteed lethal. And then just do that. We didn't get to see half of it because of the mule interaction, obviously annoyingly messing everything up. But I imagine most of it was just spent thinking, right? And then he just didn't do anything at the end. 4 mana on Stelina. Like, I know he was just trying to set up for a guaranteed lethal next turn, but he just left himself 100% dead to Arbor up. I don't know what that was.
Me neither.
Disaster.
I think one of two things happened there with Posesi. One of them is maybe he thought it was a peddler like I did because of the shape, and he tried to trade it but didn't work.
Maybe?
Or the other thing is, maybe he thought that it wouldn't eat up the discount on Glide from Illidari Studies because it did get more expensive after he played Stelina, I believe. And maybe he thought that he had enough mana to glide, where if Il'gynoth went back in the deck and then came back out again, he could still get the lethal with the 4-card combo. But with the 1 mana extra that he needed to pay, maybe that wasn't possible and he panicked after. That's my best theory.
It's as good a theory as any. I don't think we're going to be explaining that one for a while. Either way, it means that against all the odds, Alan again has got himself through to Game 5 after being 0-2 down at the start of the series. This man is just unstoppable. And so now, all the way at Game 5, it's the Demon Hunter versus the regular Hunter. And Posesi has got himself a lightning starting hand. But as you were saying before we head into this series, yesterday you and I were testing this matchup a bit, myself on the Demon Hunter, yourself on the Face Hunter. And you were kind of kicking my butt, contrary to what we thought would happen.
It was 2-1. I don't know if that's...
I think it was 3-1.
3-1?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a butt kicking.
Fair enough. That's 75%. The Neophyte tossed already tells you where Alan's head is at, which is that Neophyte by itself, maybe slowing down a Demon Hunter turn is not good enough. And the intricacy of this matchup, I feel, comes from playing the early games like Immolation Aura isn't there, or early turns like Immolation Aura isn't there, like Fellscream isn't there. Just pray they don't have it. Maybe you get to push 12 damage at best. And after that point, just lay off the board plan. Maybe you only play 1 minion at a time, but from that point, if you have 2 minions, 3 minions, that's even better for the Demon Hunter because they have 3 targets for Fellscream Blast to actually heal more out of. The Fellscream Blast is essential to Demon Hunter to make sure that they can compensate for all of the damage you've done in the early game. But if you force them to heal by hitting their own minions or feel like they're not getting enough value off their heal, then you can punish with these burst spells like Aim Shot and Piercing Shot. Alan, however, hasn't really hit the first half of that game plan with an efficient early board push, though.
Yeah, he's got the very awkward starting hand as Guardian Org Merchants do not get along at all, and so it almost certainly just has to be hero power on this turn, which means that Posesi's hand is just so smooth. Look at how this works. Sigil into hero power to clear off the Org Merchant on this turn, complete the quest on 3, very possibly even glide on turn 4, Outcast. It's rarely good in this matchup, but this might be one of those rare instances.
Yeah, rarely good to outcast it. And even non-outcast, just playing an entire turn to progress quest often feels slow enough versus Hunter, or too slow versus Hunter, but might be okay versus the start from Alan. He is just going to continue weaving in the hero powers, though. I think we've already crossed the threshold where having too many minions starts to be scarier for Alan than it is for Posesi, because Posesi might get more value off of his healing.
Another happy guildie.
But right now, there's so little pressure that he doesn't even have to be bothered about healing. It's all about quest, play early Kurtrus, deal the counter lethal.
And man, for Posesi, it's just an embarrassment of riches here. Like, it's kind of bad to glide because he gets rid of a good hand, but it's kind of good because Alan's going to go Warsong Wrangler here, and then you get to shuffle back in at least one Rhino, very possibly two you could make a read on, given how bad the early game has been for Alan. And then at that point, they lose the buff. He's likely drawing a worse hand. It's close.
If you glide, though, you are leaving up 5 damage on board a lot of the time. I mean, if that's the only thing you do, we could see like I-beam into coin glide and only leave up the Wrangler. But I kind of like Posesi's current hand. It's so cheap that I think he's got other ways to progress the quest, especially with this Spectral Sight draw, that I'd like to see the glide saved.
Oh, it is close, isn't it? Because he could have gone Fell Screen Blast, I-Beam, Coin Glide, which uses up a lot of his cheap cards. He could even have fit in the Illidari Studies along the way if he wanted to, just to discount an extra mana. And then you're likely making Alan's hand a lot worse. But then, as you say, you are getting rid of a good hand. And even though Fell Screen Blast, I-Beam on this turn is okay, it can be insane if next turn you're able to go Arcanist, Moarg, Fell Screen Blast, kill a Rhino, heal up to 1 million. Then it does seem like Alan is going to struggle to come back at all.
Wait, okay. Yeah. With this play, he deliberately did not go for the Sigil of Alacrity to not overdraw at the start of it, but he is going to get the Acrobatics now. Wait, I thought there was Acrobatics aura on that.
I think he traded the Guild Trader, which he drew off of the other part.
I see. Okay. This was a very complex turn that Posesi doesn't look like he was happy with at the end, but he did just progress the quest, get a Sigil in play, and end with 8 cards in hand. I think that's pretty good. But the problem is here, right? Alan's just only 1 minion on board. Fell Screen Blast not healing for that much unless Posesi wants to shoot his own minions, which doesn't feel great. And now Alan's threatening a lethal with Piercing Shot potentially.
Yeah, so it's time for action here for Posesi. You say that shooting your own minions isn't great, which is kind of true, but when there's Rhinos on the other side, you'd kind of rather heal and then blow up your board at the same time. So really, the only missing piece here for Posesi is a Moarg to be able to double up on all his healing, kill off the opposing minion with an I-Beam as well. But without it, things get a little bit scrappy. Stelina, his worst enemy, is way too expensive to be messing about with on this turn.
Is it though? It's a minion he can play with 2 Arcanists and then Fell Scream 3 minions.
That is true. That's a good point.
That would heal him for 15, which is admittedly not great. Maybe it's just 1 Arcanist, I-Beam, and Stelina. Healing for 5 does get him out of any breakpoints Alan can do on 6 mana.
Oh, not far out though. Okay. Ending with the glide here. It's reasonable again, given that he knows there's at least 1 Rhino in hand, or can heavily suspect, sorry, that there's at least 1 Rhino in hand, and very possibly another.
That's the Kurtrus here, but in terms of a post-glide hand, that's pretty awful for Posesi.
Yeah.
These are the cards he wants to draw after the quest is done, and Alan ends up with Barracuda Bane. Yo.
Yeah, that's premium. Just being able to get quick shot, aimed shot, even Demon Companion as well, or maybe the Adorable Infestation that comes off of it as well. Or maybe not. Maybe, again, you just don't play any minions, as you were saying, because you just want to prioritize pushing burn and denying a Fell Screen Blast.
It's to the point now, though, where Posesi has used 1 Fell Scream, right? Or, no, sorry, he used an I-Beam, so... I would argue that if there were only 1 left, you can be fine to play into that because they need that for their combo also. And if they can't counter push, you can just win on board. But that's all Posesi's done. And Alan just wins with aim shot, quick shot, hero power.
That's it. Posesi up out of his chair. He cannot believe it, can't even bear to be on camera. That was just an uncharacteristic end for Posesi, not the way he wanted this to go after starting 2-0 up. And Alan again gets the reverse sweep. He's through to the semi-finals. And even though he's giving his opponent the chance, giving them hope at the start of the series, he always swoops in and clutches it out of their grasp and takes the dub. Such a strong performance from Alan. I don't think I could pick up really anything to criticize him on over the past few games. He's just been unstoppable, and now he goes through deservedly through to the semi-final. I just think he's been the strongest player in both series.
There's just an instruction manual now on how to fight Alan. You never win your first 2 games against him. Even if it means you have to throw one, that still increases. Because Alan, if he's down 0-2, something changes. I don't know who flips the switch. In this case, nothing with Alan in particular changed. It felt like something in Posesi's mind got a little bit muddled there, especially in the Druid versus Demon Hunter game. But Alan clearly is on point here. Reverse sweeping 2 series in a row in terms of fortitude and focus. Alan is unmatched, and he is through to the semifinals. Only 2 series away from being our next representative to the World Championship.
That's right, Alan truly in the flow state right now, whereas Posesi in the post state, I guess you could call it, where he's making these unfortunate errors. We hate to see it because we know what he can do. He's just been so strong over the course of his run in Grandmasters. Obviously, he's already going through to the World Championship, so if anyone this weekend, he, I think, will be the most able to accept if he doesn't win. But one thing I think Posesi will not be able to accept is poor play.